Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here once again to talk about my top 10 best old movies that I watched for the first time in 2020. I've been wanting to do this list. It's just I had a little issue with the copyright system on YouTube. I wanted to start editing videos differently where I put, for list videos, I would put trailers in for each movie. And then I would take out the sound and I would do the narration over that so you could watch the trailer in the background. Well, then I uploaded Safi's top 10 movies of 2020 and twice. And both times the company that owns the trailer for The Gentleman blocked the video. It's like, this video isn't making any money. We got pictures on top of the trailer, and the trailer doesn't have any sound. But yeah, we're really stealing their video and saying it's The Gentleman trailer. It's just, that's fucking retarded. So I'm just not going to do that, I guess. I mean, it's unfortunate because I thought that it would be kind of a nice thing if people I mean, Jesus Christ, they post full movies on YouTube. They post full clips on YouTube, tons of scenes. You could just look up The Gentleman ending, The Gentleman seen this, The Gentleman seen that, and then because I have a fucking trailer I mean, she put it at number 1 of last year. Just ridiculous. If anything, they should be thanking us for putting in the trailer and showing people that a good movie. But anyways, I guess I'm not going to do that. It's unfortunate, but, who cares? So, and I actually disputed it too because but then I deleted the video as well, so I don't know what'll happen with that. But I wanted to see what they would say because I just think it's ridiculous. I've seen so many other examples of this type of thing, and it's so absurd that this single movie trailer would get singled out inside it. I mean, it's like 2 minutes out of a 30-something minute video. Ugh. Okay, so anyways, I have tons of honorable mentions. I watched a lot of good movies last year, a lot of okay movies, a lot of great movies, and unfortunately, I don't have hours to talk about all of them, although I wish I did because, I mean, I would do it. I mean, 10-hour long Marco talking about old movies, hell yeah. Like, I love movies that are not of this time, so I could talk about them nonstop until I just suffer and pass out and die of starvation practically. So anyways, I'm going to say a few honorable mentions here and then I'll post the rest of them in the comments section. My first honorable mention is Green Book, which I know I've talked about before. Yet again, it's a very positive movie. It's a very nice and pleasant movie. It's a very engaging movie where you have great characters, great dialogue. It's just a very nice movie. That's what's so funny is it gets attacked all the time, but it's not an inflammatory movie. It's not a controversial movie. It's just a nice movie about these two guys who strike up a friendship and are on a road trip together. I mean, it's so fun. And it's such a positive movie in this day and age of just separating people into two categories. You're either good or you're evil. And this movie says, well, it's more complicated than that. And it's just, it's such a positive movie. And, it might have a couple of issues just in terms of it being like a typical kind of Hollywoodized type of movie where it's like, this is a little too sugar coated, but at the same time, it's very fun. And I don't think it deserved to win Best Picture because there were other movies that were way better. But I do think it deserved to win Best Picture over the ones that got nominated with it. So, and my next honorable mention is Eight Men Out. This movie, wow. This movie really took me by surprise. It's another one of those historical fiction type of movies. I love those type of movies. And it's basically all about the cheating. I can't remember which baseball team it was, but there was a famous scandal of this certain very famous baseball team where all the players basically cheated, or some of them cheated, and then other ones knew about it, and so that meant that they're bad too. And so, but this movie was incredible. It was so entertaining. It was such a thrilling, like, tense. It was pretty tense at some points, like what was going to happen, because, you know, I try to forget everything I've learned about history in terms of like a specific story like this. You know, I try to just go in there with this blank slate and just see what happens. And wow, I mean, perfect acting from the baseball team. It's a perfect time period movie too. I mean, it really captures this time period well without doing the typical thing they do nowadays. What do they do nowadays to capture time periods? They put an ugly, dark color filter over everything to make all the color get sucked out of the movie. They make dumb political comments on social norms and things of that nature. Like, oh, wasn't it funny when women all had to wear corsets? You know, that's the type of stuff they do. Well, in this movie, they really embody that era. And it's a perfect film. I mean, I really wish I could have put it in the top 10. It's that good. I would highly recommend this movie. My next honorable mention is Breakdown. This movie took me by surprise as well. I was expecting a very dark, sadistic movie about a guy whose wife gets kidnapped. He's in the middle of nowhere, but it just kept... The thing about this movie was that it just kept turning into another type of movie. The same thing of what Bliss did, that new movie with Owen Wilson and Selma Hayek. It kept on just twisting and twisting and turning into new kinds of adventures. Oh, you thought this was going to be a horror movie? No, it's going to be action. No, it's going to be drama. No, it's going to be suspense. No, it's going to be this. It's going to be that. And it's like, it's just constantly keeping you guessing and constantly keeping you engaged. And on top of that, I mean, you got Kurt Russell. How could you go wrong? Oh, Christmas Chronicles. Sorry, what was that? But yeah, Kurt Russell, fucking awesome. I mean, I love him in anything he's in. He's such a great actor. And then also, the real highlight of this movie is the villain, Red. And I can't remember the actor's name, but he's dead now. And he is incredible. I mean, he's probably one of the best villains in film history. He's so evil. He's so I don't know. He's very like enigmatic. The way that he doesn't really have like any emotion. Like he's very strange, and he's very like perfect at masking his identities and doing all sorts of stuff with that. I won't get into that, but yeah, this movie is epic. And my last honorable mention is, well, I just wish, I swear to God, I wish I could talk about all of them. My last honorable mention is Family Plot. Now, this is a Hitchcock movie. It is his last movie, in fact, and it is severely underrated. It is basically, to me, it felt like the highlights of Hitchcock. Like, it literally played like, oh, remember that movie? Here's a little sequence that mirrors that movie. It was just so perfect the way it just kept on like having little tributes, twisting things you thought that he would do, but he doesn't do. Like he has this quote sexy blonde character And then at one point she pulls the wig off and she's a redhead. And it's like, wow, that's cool. Like, I didn't expect that. That was cool. And, you got Karen Black playing that character. She did a good job. You got, what was that guy's name? Oh, God, that really famous guy. the main guy, he's really good. You got, and now here's the star of the film. Barbara Harris playing this quote fortune teller, psychic type of person. She's basically a con artist, and she is incredible. She is probably, I would say, the best Hitchcock girl in history. I will have to watch all of his films first before I say that definitively. But yeah, wow, she is so sexy and such a good actress, and she gave a great performance in this movie. It's so unlike all of his other characters, because she's a lot smarter than a lot of other Hitchcock's female characters, in my opinion. So yeah, Family Plot, check it out. It's not the greatest movie, but it's a pretty good Hitchcock movie, and it's underrated. And there's this car sequence that's just really intense and really made me like, oh shit, what is gonna happen? And I love it when movies do that. So finally, my top 10. My number 10 is Putney Swope. Now, this movie, I love it. I love it, love it, love it. It is basically a movie about this company, this advertising company, and their leader dies. And he dies right in front of them too. He literally just he's like he's like right in front of him. It's hilarious. And and so what happens is they have to vote for a new head of the company, and they all take a vote, and they all accidentally vote for the token black guy, Putney Swope. And then Putney Swope turns the company just completely upside down. He turns it into this like pro-black place where like all the employees are black. He fires all of the other employees except for like one or two. He does these terrible commercials, like these he does terrible commercials on purpose almost, just to sabotage companies that he thinks are bad. And it's just a hilarious movie, and it really is so like the opposite of politically correct. The only thing is, I would say, is that it is not a well-made film. It is a very sloppily made film. It is structured very poorly, and I think that hurts it a little bit, because it is hilarious. It's got it's such a free-spirited movie, the way that they let the movie just go in all sorts of different types of directions. And, I would say in Putney Swope, my favorite part of the movie was the part where basically he has to figure out a commercial for this certain company, and he keeps on asking his wife for ideas. And his wife is like, like she just doesn't have a clue, and he just keeps on asking her like she's a psychic. And so he actually marries her just to find out an idea. And then she says, the girl has got to have soul. And that's her idea. Like, seriously? And so then there's this other guy, and he just keeps on saying, she has got to have soul, over and over and over again. Like, it's like, it's just, see, it's making me laugh just thinking about it. And then they get down and they view the commercial, and she's got soul. It's just it's hilarious. And I love the movie. I think it's just it's a hilarious movie. I highly recommend it. It's actually, I think it's in the Criterion Collection, and it's also on YouTube. Wink, wink. My number 9 is Buffalo 66. This movie is phenomenal. I did not talk about it the other time I was supposed to talk about it, but wow. It is just a masterpiece. And, I watched it, to be honest, I watched it because the guy who made it, he directed it, wrote it, and starred in it. And so I wanted to watch it for my own inspiration as someone who wants to do the same thing. And it's like, wow, this is like next level filmmaking. Every picture is like a painting. And he's so well at just painting this world with these characters. And it's so engaging the way that the characters are just, they're not perfect, and they all have flaws, and they have great dialogue, and they all look really great, like their costumes, and like there's some scenes in this movie where they literally mirror almost, like, or I mean not mirror, but they literally outdo Stanley Kubrick. I mean, there's a scene where he has to go, well, he goes into this gold bar, and it's like the most beautiful picture that I've ever seen in film, of this guy in this gold background, and it's just like, this it's a perfect film. You got Christina Ricci, she's doing a good job, and then you got the main guy, Vincent Gallo, and he's really good, and he actually brings like a lot of sympathy to this role that I don't think other actors would be able to pull off. I think that if you gave this role to the wrong actor, he would just be kind of like a generic dirtbag type character, and you wouldn't really care about him as much as you do this guy. I was so shocked, and then I looked up and I was like, oh, where's the other movies this guy's made? Like, I guess he made like one or two other movies, and now he's working on another one, and I'm really excited to see what he does, and I'll definitely be supporting it, because Buffalo 66 is a masterpiece. It's flawless. I don't care what anyone says. It is just, and I'm not just saying that. I'm saying that because I watched it over and over and over again when I first saw it, and I showed it to Safi, and it's just, it almost gets better every time. Like, it just perfect. Number 8 is Inside Llewyn Davis. This is a movie I've already talked about. I've already talked about extensively in my top 10 movies of the 2010s decade. It is a movie that resonates with you if you're an artist. It really resonated with me, and it is probably my second favorite Coen Brothers film. And that's about all I can say. I mean, just go watch the other video if you want to hear like more in-depth thoughts. My number 7 is Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. This movie took me a little getting used to. I gotta be honest, I did not like this movie the first time I watched it. I thought that there was one really good segment, and it was the bad guy, and then the mustache guy. That's a bad sign. I can't remember their names. The main bad guy, he's I think he's a general, and then his commanding officer. Their back and forth is just epic. The whole movie, it's extremely intense. It's extremely like frightening to watch, because this general, he's mentally ill, and you can just see it on his face. He looks sick. I mean, he looks visibly sick, and you got Peter Sellers with a mustache, and he's just trying to get out of this, and he's trying to save the world, and then the scene with the Coca-Cola and everything. It is a perfect movie. And that segment. But then you got the other segments, which are the war room dialogue scenes, and then the actual plane flying around with the nuclear bomb, which I thought those segments were okay, but I didn't think they were as good as that segment where it's you got the bad guy and you got his commanding officer, and it's this intense back and forth where like you legitimately do not know what's going to happen. I also think that I was a little spoiled by the movie. I think that it would have helped if I hadn't known the ending of this movie beforehand, because I saw the picture of the guy riding the bomb. I already knew the ending before watching the movie. And so a lot of that intensity that might have come from the other sequences was taken away. I also think some of the comedy did not work. I thought that Peter Sellers was miscast as the president. I thought the president was fine, but he was really not as good as he could have been. I thought the Doctor Strangelove character was kind of, I mean, he's basically a cameo. If you think about it, like he's in the last like act basically, and that's it. And I was expecting a lot more from him. And so yeah, but then I watched it a second and third and fourth time, and I actually came to really like the movie. I thought it was very enjoyable, and I thought that it was very inspiring to see like what little you could do. I mean, yes, there was a lot of money spent on the sets and all that crap, but the majority of the movie is about dialogue, and it's about different people speaking to each other, which people nowadays call that boring black and white movie stuff. So yeah, it's a pretty good movie. Check it out. My number 6 movie is Bone Tomahawk. This is another perfect movie. It's a horror movie. It's a western. And I've already talked about it in another video, so go check that out. My number 5 is The Adventures of Barry McKenzie. And this was a part of my Australian craze, I'll call it that. And where I watched like 10 Australian movies. And I actually went on to watch 10 or 11 or 12 more. And I'm going to continue watching them because it turns out, a big twist, Australian movies are actually a lot better than certain American movies. Like, Australian movies are so original and so fun and different and just they're really good. I love watching them. It feels like a treat every time I watch a new Australian movie, and in particular this movie. This movie was so good, I watched it on my birthday, which I consider that to be the highest honor a movie can achieve if I'm willing to give it my attention on my birthday. And, you know, where even to begin with this movie? It's extremely not politically correct. It is extremely vulgar, extremely hilarious, and extremely full of comedy. Not like, you know, fake comedy from nowadays where it's like all these PC jokes and you know comedy is dead nowadays, but this movie has real comedy, and it's perfect. It is a masterpiece, and I could not say anything wrong with it. The only thing I would say wrong with it is the fact that they made a shitty sequel, and the sequel should have been a lot better, but that's a different movie. This movie is perfect, and the main guy who plays Barry McKenzie, he is perfect, and I'd say he's probably one of my favorite leading male characters ever. I don't think his character is necessarily like someone you want to be like, because you know he's kind of a beta. Like every time he has a chance to get into a girl's pants, he fucks it up somehow, and he's also kind of, you know, there's a lot of stuff about him that's bad, especially in the second one where he wears blackface. Yeah, that happened in the second one, and it happened for such a stupid reason. But the first one, though, we're talking about the first one. The first one is perfect. I mean, there's a joke where he goes to this actress's house, and he basically met her on the set of shooting this commercial for cigarettes. And she's like a Swedish actress, and she keeps on saying "super" over and over and over again. It's hilarious. And he's in her apartment, and he bought this like erotic book that told him to put spices on his dick, and so he goes to this store and he gets cans of prawn and something curry, and he puts the canned curry all over his dick. And then he's gonna sleep with her. And he hands her some spices, and he's like, "Get yourself on some spices while I do this." And that's another thing. He speaks like almost in gibberish. Like he's speaking words, but he's speaking like weird ways that I just could not understand because it's like Australian slang to the extreme. And so it was sort of like a Clockwork Orange, where it's like, what's he saying? It's a perfect movie. I highly recommend it. It's on YouTube right now. It's also on Amazon Prime. My number 4 is Gods and Monsters. This is the movie about James Whale when he was really old, and he's played by Ian fucking McKellen. And then you got Brendan Fraser, and it's just them the whole movie basically, and it is another masterpiece. It's basically about James Whale hiring this really, quote, good-looking gardener to basically hang out with him and be his, quote, model. And it is just, wow. I couldn't say anything wrong with it. There is nothing wrong with this movie. It is just perfect. And you got Ian McKellen giving probably his best performance. It's a very heartbreaking movie by the end of the movie, and it's got great dialogue. And yet again, it's another movie that does a lot with little. Most of this movie is just people talking. The only thing I could say that they could have done better, maybe if I was forced to, is that this movie seems to emphasize the Bride of Frankenstein a lot because of the gay themes in that movie, and because it's more comedic. But I kind of wish that they had focused more on the first Frankenstein, which was, in my opinion, the first Frankenstein is a million times better. And I would have loved to have seen more of that instead of the typical Bride of Frankenstein. I mean, there's one part where they're watching Bride of Frankenstein, they're just laughing at it. And it's like, yeah, I know, but you should have watched the first one, because the first one is so much better. And I think that the second one is really overrated, in my opinion. I mean, I love the Frankenstein series, but Bride of Frankenstein is probably the most overrated movie of that series. And so, yeah, but it really doesn't have much to do with the movie, but still, I would highly recommend Gods and Monsters. My number 3 is The Florida Project. Once again, I've already talked about this movie. I've already basically said everything I could say. I highly recommend it. It's an inspiring movie. It's a great movie. It's a beautiful movie. Beautiful in terms of the way it looks, obviously. And yeah, and it also is yet another movie. For some reason, when I watch these poverty porn movies about Florida, I really like them. I don't know why, but yeah. Number 2 is Porky's. Now, Porky's is yet another movie that is just full of vulgar, quote, gross, politically incorrect comedy. It is the perfect comedy. And I'll admit it, I watched this movie and I cried at the end. I cried because I said to myself, wow, I wish we could still have comedy today, because I bet the comedy would have gotten better and better and better. But instead, we have this disgusting fake comedy nowadays. We have these stupid Seth Rogen movies. We have these agenda comedies. Just, ugh. Comedy has gone... I would say comedy is almost even worse than horror movies nowadays. Comedy has really died. And it's unfortunate because you have Porky's, and it's such an incredible movie. Yeah, even if you took the comedy out of it, it would still be an okay high school movie. You have these guys that are all friends, and they're trying to get laid, and it's just a simple plot, and you have a great villain. It's a beautiful looking movie too. It's very beautifully shot, and it's just I can't find a single flaw about it. It made me laugh so much. It made me laugh so many times. I've watched it like 2 or 3 times now, and I can't wait to finish the series. I hope it stays just as good as the first one, but who knows? So yeah, Porky's is just fabulous. I didn't mean to say fabulous. I mean, Porky's was incredible. It was awesome. It was perfect. Not fabulous, isn't like whatever. My number one is Cruel Intentions. This movie is another movie that took me by surprise. Basically, for ever since I've seen Heathers, I've been trying to find other movies that are like Heathers. Other movies where you have this very dark world that's treated in sort of a comedic way. And you have this very unsettling, dark undertone to everything. Well, Cruel Intentions does that. Cruel Intentions is an extremely dark premise about basically this rich douchebag who ruins people's lives. Like, he sleeps with these girls, and then he ruins their life. Like, he has this therapist, and he slept with his daughter, and then, like, he posts her nudes online and did all this other shit because for fun, basically. And then you got Sarah Michelle Gellar, who's at her peak in this movie, and she makes a bet for the main guy to F this one girl who's on a magazine, and she's basically goody two-shoes woman who doesn't want to screw until marriage. And she's played by Reese Witherspoon at her peak. And so it's basically, the whole movie is all about getting with Reese Witherspoon. And then you got like other stuff like with Selma Blair, I think her name is. You got that infamous kissing scene, and oh my god, that kissing scene between Sarah Michelle Gellar and Selma Blair, that was hot. That is probably one of the hottest movie scenes I've ever seen, and wow. And in fact, like, it's funny because a lot of the time, movie scenes do not turn me on by themselves. But this scene did. And so that is how good it was done. And I'm not saying that, like, that's the purpose of this movie. I'm just saying that one scene, all by itself, is just perfect. And it's really good. The only flaw that I would say, which I kind of can't say is a flaw since it emotionally got to me, is that there's a certain thing that happens to a certain character near the end of the film, and to me it was very predictable that it would happen, and that kind of pissed me off a little bit because I knew it was coming, but then it really got to me emotionally, and I really felt for that character, and so yeah, I'll just forget about it. It's a flawless movie. It's a perfect movie. In the original story, it's not necessarily about teenagers, I don't think, and this isn't either. This is sort of about young adults, but you could interpret it as like a teenage type of sex thriller movie. But it's really not. It's really dark, and it's really sort of like it's almost like a horror movie, like a horror comedy. And I wished I had seen this in theaters when it came out for a re-release. So anyways, wow, that was a long video. It's going to take a hell of a lot longer to edit and upload it. But I hope you guys liked it. Please give it a thumbs up, comment, tell me what your favorite movies you saw last year were that were older. Share this video with all your friends and family. Go check out these movies. Tell me what you thought of these movies. All that crap YouTubers tell you to do. So goodbye, everybody. See you soon.